Morning. Good to see you all here this early morning. My name is Oskar Kalmaru. I'm from Narrative. And I'm about to talk about why launching your wearable is nothing like launching your app. It's a nice, I think, segue from Patrick's previous talk. It's also going to be the second speak out of two that mentions growth hacking. So for those of you keeping score, I think it's not the last one either. So there is. This is a narrative clip. It's a tiny wearable camera. It takes a photo every 30 seconds, all automatically. So you just can stay in the moment, live the moment as it happens, and enjoy it, and still get photos from it. It's all automatic, so it's always there taking photos for you. We also have an app for this, where we organize all the photos for you. You can find them, share them, all of that. I'm not going to talk about the product, but just for a little background. So launching a wearable is nothing like launching your app, or why growth hacking is not just for pirates. So first, when it comes to wearables, there's no such thing as a free trial. So when you launch an app, what you want to do is to give away as many free trials or downloads as possible. And then from there, you want to get them through this funnel, this growth funnel, and get them down to revenue as quickly as possible, basically, and as many of them as possible. But you have this wide open in the top, because it's free. You can just give them out. You can give them free downloads, and then you can add on, have in-app purchases, or convert them to premium users, or so on. But when it comes to wearables, it looks a bit different. Both of these images are ugly, by the way. But the point is that the app funnel is really wide and open to the top, and the wearable funnel, the hardware funnel, is really narrow. And this is because every acquired user comes with a cost. It comes with revenue as well, but it also comes with a cost. You can't just give away 1 million free hardware units and then trying to find some revenue afterwards. You have to get the revenue early, and it comes with a cost. And even though you get the revenue early, you still want to get them down through that funnel to becoming retained users and referring users. And for those of you who recognize this funnel, it's called the growth hacking for pirates. It's a pretty common name you can Google for growth hacking for pirates, and Dave McClure was the guy who made the phrase popular. It's a great framework for thinking about growth hacking. No matter if it's wearables or apps, really, which is what I'm going to show you. But it comes from an app world where you start with acquiring users, you then try to activate them to start using your product, you then try to make them retained users that use it not just once, but over time, so that you then get them to refer your product and then revenue. But as I said, for wearables, that's different. So acquisition comes with a cost. That's the first thing. So next up, once you have acquired those customers, you're not down there. Next up, you want to avoid the death by drawer, as I call it. And when it comes to apps, not just because they have downloaded your apps, they're not going to use it. In fact, about 75% of all downloaded apps are never used. So there's a huge drop-off between download or acquisition and usage or activation. And of course, with hardware, the numbers are a bit different because they have paid for it. But even then, it's surprisingly many units that just end up in the drawer. Even though you pay $100 or $200 for it, people never use it. I have stuff myself at home that I never unpacked because I unpacked it, but then I didn't use it because it was too cumbersome to get started, or I even tried calling the customer service and I didn't get help, and then I just forget about it. And that's $100 lost. So you want to avoid this death by drawers. Fortunately, when it comes to wearables, wearables are often not just hardware. It's also hardware and software. Like with Narrative, we have the hardware camera and the software app. So thanks to the software in the wearable product, you can at least measure this activation. If you're selling, shovels, it's hard to measure if someone used that shovel. But if you're selling wearables, you can use your software to track how many of your users are using it. And you can also track the whole onboarding process. This cumbersome thing that we all hate, having our own the new technology and getting started with it. It's always a problem. It's just sometimes a little bit less problem and sometimes more. But you want to get through that. And as a producer of wearables, you can use that software to track how well or how quickly your users are onboarding. Right. So next part. Okay, you have acquired users, they're activated, they used it once, now you want to get hooked and really use it a lot. Because if they don't get hooked, they're not going to refer it. And then it's just one sale. So you want to keep going down the funnel. And the next step is getting them hooked. This is another really useful framework by Nir Eyal in a book called Hooked. I really recommend it. It's a great read. What it says is basically that, and again, this is based on apps. So for apps, say a game like Candy Crush, you give out a free download, and then you want them to start using it. And the trigger, what makes you start using it, can be anything. It can be notification on your screen, or it can be like an outside trigger, just being bored. And then you have Candy Crush. You start using it, you play around, you get a reward for playing it, like you level up, or you get badges, or whatever it is. You can get social reward, you can show off how good you are at Candy Crush. That reward leads to another investment, so that next time you're up in that top left corner, that trigger will have an even higher impact. And then around you go, and before you know it, you're hooked. As simple as that, isn't it? When it comes to wearables, though, it's a little bit different, because again, you can't really track that. You can't track the use of a shovel, as I said. Oops. But also, again, the software is the key there. It's through the software with your wearable that you can use techniques to get people hooked on it. You can connect it with your hardware and create those triggers that get people to keep using your hardware. That's why a lot of fitness trackers have these like gamified software where you can compete with others. And if you use the Misfit track, for example, they have a great leaderboard where you can compete with your friends about how many steps are you taking and so on. And that's not just because you're not going to take much more steps because of that, but at least you're going to use their product more. Okay, so for fourth one, the referral part. 1 + 1 is 2. Surprise. So I've been talking about launch here. And what is really a launch? So launch is often when you want to put something to market and do that in a very compressed period of time. You will get all these downloads or activations as soon as possible, and you want to give it out to media and reviewers, and you want that to happen in a very concrete period of time. But a successful launch is not just giving them out or getting early buyers or whatever it is. You want to get this viral loop, referral loop happening, where one person's purchase leads to 2 other people's purchases, and 5 other, and 10 others, and so on. And again, that's easier, at least in an app, where you can build in these referral loops. But for a hardware, again, it's harder. Just because you drive a Mercedes a lot, and you love your Mercedes, you drive it every day, that doesn't mean that you're going to drive it. There's nothing in it for you to have your friend also drive it. Like there's no referral loop in a hardware, really. And by now, maybe you can guess the answer. So again, the software saves the day. Because wearables are software and hardware, you can use the software to create that viral loop, to create triggers, as I said before, and notifications, and things that just help you help your first users gain new ones. Especially if you charge money for the software, you can have like the Dropbox model where one person's referral gives them discounts on their own, and the friends discounts as well. There are tons of those tricks you can do. But the key thing here is that because of the software, it's even possible. Without the software, you can't do it. So just to reiterate, the funnel here for apps, revenue is the bottom, and for hardware, the revenue is on the top. So what about the revenue? A little bit more math. What I want to say with this is that even say $199 is a pretty standard price for a wearable, and if you sell as few as 10,000 units, that's still a higher number than 99 cents times a million. So you have to sell a lot of app downloads at a price that is a standard app download price to even get near a number that is a pretty low sale on hardware. So that's the only good news in this. When I'm talking about how much harder it is to launch a wearable versus app, this one is at least icing on the cake. And not only that, you also have distribution channels that are more than just your app store. If you're selling apps, you only have two stores. You have app stores and Google Play, basically. And it's like if you were selling groceries, you would only have one store in Berlin. That's the only store where you sell it. That would be a pain. You would be having all of your risk at that one store. Whereas if you're selling hardware or wearables, you have this whole distribution channel of stores that are selling this for you. So you have a much better leverage on your retailers or your resellers than what you have with anything else. So, 3 key takeaways from this. First, launching your app, hard and boring. It's hard. It's super hard, but it's even boring because everybody does it, and there is no, there is all these tricks already in the book. You can just go in there and do it. I'm simplifying a bit, but it's easier. It's more boring than the hardware and wearable. Hardware, that's really hard. If you don't have a software, it's hard. For wearable, it's hard and fun because you can use the software to help you with those things. Simple as that. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Oskar. Thanks very much, Oskar. Just going to shout. Thanks very much, Oskar. That's a great talk about narrative and how basically wearables differ to apps. Has anybody got any questions? Just here in the blue shirt.
Oskar, thanks for the talk. Referring to the previous talk, which medium did you pick to popularize the narrative product? I was dreading that question. We should have seen Patrick's talk before we launched, I think. We sell through our own website a lot, and we see that is the channel that works the best still. Even though we do sell through Best Buy and all these other retail channels, there's no other retail channel that beats our own website. And I think the answer to that is because what Patrick said, that on our website we can tell the whole story about the product. We can tell much more creative story around it, and we can tell it in our own way. Whereas in a retail, we're all bound to what they say, what the sellers say. We're at this pretty boring little shelf next to other products. So for us, being an innovative product, it's important for us as well to be able to tell it in an innovative way. And we can't afford these fancy Apple stores or Tesla stores, but we can afford a pretty fancy online stores. That's what we've been focusing on.
Any more questions?
Yeah, so I should probably reiterate the question. How do we get the first traction, the first user? And you also said reusing the product. So we launched as a Kickstarter campaign. And that's something also I can really recommend. It's a great way to, at the same time, test your market and get your first customers. It's a pretty cheap way. You get all of these viral loops are kind of built in already in the Kickstarter platform. So just by putting it up there, you have all of this for free, basically. So that got us the first 2,000, 2,500 or so customers, and then we can build on them and have them as our ambassadors and influencers.
Where can we get Narrative?
You can get it at our store, again, getnarrative.com. Here in Germany, we don't sell retail, I think, but on our store you can get it. So, yep, you can find it there.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.